Hello everyone, June here. Welcome to this video where I'm going to show you the camera gear that I took to the Balkans with me. This video has been a long time in the making, but in my defense, if I show you the camera that I brought, then I wouldn't have a camera to film on, from which you can deduce that I have a new camera, which is filming these right now. So let's start with the big guns. So my main camera was an Olympus OM-D E-M5 Mark II, which is a very small mirrorless camera, and I mean small compared to like DSLRs, which tend to be very big. And for the camera, I had a 12-40 lens, also an Olympus, but because these kinds of cameras have a crop factor of 2, this 12-40 lens is effectively a 24-80, which I think is a good range of focal lengths for travel. And in addition to that lens, I have this 41-50 lens, which is actually quite small, and it's not as good quality, but it did the job. The 12-40 lens is a Pro lens, so the Olympus Pro line, so it's quite expensive, and it's very good quality. This one, the quality was okay. I wasn't thrilled, but it did the job. It's also not mine, it's my husband's. I borrowed it. But this is the lens that I took for things like wildlife, which I didn't actually see any wildlife, but anything that I needed to zoom in more, I used this lens. For this lens, I took 3 sets of filters. The first filter, and probably the one that I use the most, is a polarizing filter. These filters are screwed into the end of the lens, so the front end of the lens. So this one in particular is used to get the glare off of glass and water, but also to sort of deepen the color of the sky when the light is hitting the filter and the lens at a certain angle. If you've ever worn polarized sunglasses and you sort of tilted your head, you can see how the sky changes, and this is what this kind of filter does. The next set of filters is actually a small kit that I put together. It is a drop-in style filters, which requires adapters. This is a Cokin filter set, and the filters are actually square, and they look like this. I brought 2 of these. These are graduated neutral density filters, and I brought them in 2 different densities. The bottom of the filter is clear, and then it gradually gets darker on the top. And this is used to darken the sky when you have a lot of contrast between the sky and the landscape, so it's mostly for landscape photography. That way you can expose for both the very bright highlights in the sky and then the shadows in the on the ground or whatever is on the foreground of your picture. And the reason that I brought 2 different densities is because sometimes the sky is not as bright in comparison to the ground or the foreground that you want to photograph as other times, and it helps to have different densities. But also you can stack them, so you can put them on the filter holder together, and that way you have an even darker gradation. And these are soft transitions, so if it was a hard transition, instead of being gradually graduated, there would just be a harsh line where the top was one color and the bottom was another color. So I think these are essential, and I use them quite often. The other filter, which has actually become one of my favorite filters, is a 10-stop neutral density filter. Now these filters are very dark. They are very, very dark. So they are essentially black. I can see the light through here because I have a light behind the camera, but if you just look at them, they're just black. When you put this on a camera, depending on what kind of camera you have, you may not be able to see through the viewfinder. So if you have a DSLR, because of the way they work, if you put this filter on the lens, you are not going to be able to see anything through the viewfinder. I have a mirrorless camera, so my viewfinder is actually an EVF. I can see independent of my lens. What this kind of filter does is that it blocks out a lot of light, 10 stops of light, which is a lot. So it allows you to take long photographs, so long exposure times in daylight, which you wouldn't normally be able to do. And the reason you may want to do this is if you're going to go see a lot of waterfalls, it helps, because if you look at waterfall pictures, the ones that really stand out are the ones where everything is sharp but the water is smooth. So basically you are capturing the movement of the water, and it looks silky, not choppy. And I'm going to put an example of what that looks like with and without a filter so that you can see the difference. But also, if the clouds are moving very fast, you can get really great pictures of stationary buildings, trees, or what have you, with just sort of blurred out clouds, and it looks really great. And I use this filter all the time. Even now, I use it all the time, and I highly recommend it. This is a Hoya one, and they're not cheap. They are, I believe it was about $100. But like I said, if you're going to travel to see waterfalls or beach or oceans, I really think you could use one of these to make your pictures really stand out. And of course, if you're going to take photographs at night or long exposures during the day, you are going to need a tripod. This is a MeFoto travel tripod, and as you can see, it packs really small, and then it folds out to, I believe, about 57 inches. And the reason I brought it is because I knew that I wanted to take nighttime photos. I knew that I wanted to do blue hour photography, and you just can't handhold those kinds of shots. And some of the daytime shots that I did with the waterfalls, they were really long exposure times, sometimes 30 seconds long. I mean, you can't really hold a camera for 30 seconds still enough to get sharp pictures. So I think a tripod is a must. If you do landscape photography, a tripod is a must. I did not regret bringing this at all. I mean, it is pretty light, so it's not like I was carrying around a big tripod. I love it. I used it a lot in the trip, and I still use it a lot, even though I have a big tripod, which is holding the new camera now. But I love this tripod. I'm going to put a link below so that you can check it out. It is relatively inexpensive, but it is absolutely worth the money. I highly recommend it. And while I'm on the subject of nighttime photography and tripods, I want to give you a little tip. While I was traveling, I cannot begin to tell you how many people I saw taking pictures at night with a flash. Pictures not of people, but pictures of the scenery or the buildings. It does not work. When you take a picture at night with a flash, especially the little flashes that are attached to cameras, you are not going to see anything beyond what is a few meters in front of you. So you're going to have either a dark picture, or you're going to have a picture that is so shaky because the flash couldn't reach what you were trying to photograph. And I am definitely going to put a, flash and no flash versions of the same picture in this video so that you can see the difference. And the difference is that one picture was taken with a flash handheld camera, and the other one I put on a tripod, and instead of a flash, I just did a long exposure, which allowed a lot more light to come into the sensor, and so it's a better image all around. So don't waste your time doing flash photography at night. It just does not work. Right, so while I use that camera and all those filters for my photography, I also brought my vlogging camera because I did a lot of vlogging. This is probably the YouTube vlogger's camera of choice. It's a Canon G7x, and I'm on the fence about recommending it because, so this is the second one of these that I have. The first one, it just died. I don't know what happened, it just died, but it was in the warranty, so Canon replaced it. But I did notice that there is actually some dust inside the lens that you can sometimes see in the videos when the light hits the lens at a certain angle. And I'm not the first person to experience it. There's another YouTuber that I watched who had the same camera and was having the same problems. But I did bring the camera nonetheless, and it did its job. You can see this little fuzzy thing up here is actually a microphone muff to muffle out wind noises. And it works okay. It's not perfect, but it looks odd. But it works. I also brought this little tripod. It's a Gorillapod one, and it's really tiny. And I used it mostly for my phone. There's an adapter that goes on here that I can't find right now, but it holds your phone on a horizontal axis. And I mean, if you're doing little things like taking a selfie, for example, but you don't actually want to hold this, this works really well for that. And it takes up no space at all. And I also used it for the vlogging camera. Another camera I brought was a GoPro, which I have in this little case that I bought on Amazon, separate from the camera. It's a Hero 4, and I used it quite a bit. I used it when I was hiking, I used it when I was ziplining, I used it sometimes to take pictures on the water that you didn't actually see because they weren't very good, and that was my fault, not the cameras. But I did bring it, and I brought 3 kinds of backs. So I brought the one that's open, and then I brought the ones that are for underwater, which actually come in 2 different, not densities, but two different types of bags. One allows for deeper submersion than another one. And of course the mounts for the GoPro. And to go along with the GoPro, I actually brought a Feiyu Tech gimbal with me. It is the Feiyu Tech G4S, and it looks a little funky. And this is how it works. You put your Hero 4 in here. It will actually also work with the Hero 3, the Hero 2, and I think maybe the Hero 5, but I'm not sure. And then you clamp it on, and when you turn it on, it does that weird thing. And what it does is that it keeps your camera steady, so that if you want to do like really nice panning shots, or even if you use it to vlog, and you want to not have the camera bob up and down when you walk, you can do that too. The way that you can do it is you do that, and then you hold it this way, and that's it. It's sort of stabilized. And I used it initially quite a bit, and then I stopped using it because I was too lazy to carry it around. But for the times that I did use it, it was very helpful, and I really, really like it. It does a little dance. And also for the GoPro, I brought this extension pole, which you can attach the camera with a mount at the end and do things like, well, I mean, if you want, you can do selfie stuff, or you can use it just to hold the camera up high if you want to do shots that way. And I mean, it's really, really small, and I carried it inside the MeFoto tripod bag along with the tripod, so it didn't really take any more room. And I really like it. And it's not the kind that floats, so you do have to be careful, but it is very light. It is very light. Because I was doing a lot of video, and I thought that I would do more formal-ish kind of travel video, I brought a Rode lapel mic, which I'm actually wearing now, so I can't take it off to show you. But it is a kind that you plug into your phone, and you can use that to record. There's also a little extension that you can attach to the end of the mic that will then make it so that you can plug it into your camera if you want to do that and bypass a shotgun mic. I ended up not actually using it because I didn't do that kind of video, but it is so small that I would bring it again if I was in the same situation. And of course, I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose any of my pictures or any of my videos. I did travel with my laptop, but I wanted a secondary backup of everything. So I brought this Transcend 2 terabyte external hard drive. It is drop proof, so you know it can knock it around in your backpack and not actually be damaged. I haven't had any issues with it. It is also really small and really light, so it's I mean, it's essentially just added insurance for very little cost in the sense of space in your suitcase or in your backpack. And of course, I had to carry all the camera gear somewhere, so I had my normal backpack, and for my daily outings, I have this bag. It is a Joe Totes bag, and I can't remember the name of the model, but it is a bag specifically made for photography. And you know, it's really funny. When I first started doing photography in 2002, I want to say, all of the camera bags were really masculine, very obviously camera bags that were not actually all that attractive. So that's what I had, and because I had so many of those for different occasions and different amount of gear, I hadn't actually bought a camera bag probably, I don't know, like 13 years or so. So I was at B&H last year, and I saw these kind of camera bags, and I was blown away by the fact that somebody had actually figured out that women wanted to carry their gear in nicer looking bags. I think this was $140, I'm not sure, but price-wise is the same as, you know, low pro camera bags or MeFoto camera bags or Tamrac. So it's not that much different in price to go from one of those to one of these. And in my opinion, it looks so much better, and it's also not obviously a camera bag. So if you're carrying gear, it's not like you're carrying a sign that says, hey, I have all this expensive stuff, come rob me. So I really liked it. And the best part is that you can carry it crossbody, and it does have this nice little cushion in here, which I really like. Sits on your shoulder, but it also has sort of a tote strap, so you can carry that on your shoulder if you want. And let's be honest, when this bag is full of gear, it's heavy. So little details like this little cushioning here or the ability to carry the bag in multiple ways is very helpful. So that is all that I brought with me, and although it may seem like a lot, believe me, it is not a lot. I used to be a Canon DSLR shooter, and to have I mean, the cameras alone are huge compared to these little Olympus cameras. The lenses, to have the ranges in focal length that I had, I would have needed lenses that were probably 3-4 times their size of the ones that I got. So all in all, even though it looks like a lot, it's actually, I think, an acceptable amount of gear for someone who is actually interested in photography, not just in snapshots, but in actually making things look good. And, you know, not just, it's a picture here, I was here, here's proof, move on, right? So I spend a lot of time doing photography, and I spent a lot of time doing video. So I feel like this amount of gear was perfect for that kind of trip. So this was a backpacking trip, which means I had to have myself with me all the time. I had to physically carry my backpack from train stations to hostels and hostels to airports. So having any more gear than this, I think, would have been a little bit cumbersome, but what I brought worked for me. And the only thing I didn't actually use was the microphone, but everything else got plenty of use. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. And happy travels. I will see you next time. Bye.